People keep telling me that I'm never going to make it as a watch guy on YouTube unless I talk about Rolex more. There we go, I've said the name. Can I move on now? So as not to be outdone by all of the more interesting brands at Watches and Wonders, Rolex has just announced its new releases for 2024. Now, I'm not sure that I can remember them all, or even be bothered enough to talk about them for a whole video, but I just thought that I'd give you some of the highlights. So to kick it off, there's a new GMT Master 2. It'll be a BL, NR, ZW, load of numbers. I don't really know. Actually, it's not a new GMT Master 2. It's the same GMT Master 2, but they've changed the colour of the bezel. They've changed the colour of half of the bezel. So maybe it's a half new GMT Master 2. Anyway, this one has now got a black and grey, or silver bezel, but it's quite a nice looking piece. I quite like the GMT Master 2. You probably won't be able to buy one from an AD anytime soon. So yeah, it's going to be a really expensive GMT watch from a grey market dealer. Let's move on. So Rolex executives know that the only way that they can really increase their revenue or grow their profitability is by making more watches or selling higher value pieces. Now, they're already in the process of scaling up production. They've got a new production facility, which I believe is coming on stream very soon. So the other arm of that strategy is selling more precious metal and gem set pieces. And it's clear from the models that Rolex has announced this week that that's the direction that the brand is taking. So Watches and Wonders last year, Rolex launched the 1908 model line of sporty dress watches. And they've just released a brand new model. This time it's in platinum with an ice blue gear shade dial. Now I think that this is by far the most attractive of all of Rolex's new releases this year. I just think this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's really elegant and beautiful and understated. Just wondering when they're going to give Fears their designer back. Next up...
I'm feeling rude. Why not ask me to insult you?
No, I didn't say Alexa, and I don't want to be insulted. Anyway, there are two new Sky Dwellers, both of which are in gold. One is in yellow gold, and there's one in rose gold, which Rolex refers to, of course, as Ever Rose. And both of them come on Jubilee bracelets. I actually quite like bits of the Sky Dweller. I just don't really like all of them put together. Now, two new Sky Dwellers in gold just wasn't really enough gold for Rolex this year. So they've also released a brand new Deep Sea in solid gold with a blue dial and a blue bezel. When I was at school, and yeah, I know it's a long time ago now, and my memory's not that great, but we learned about the periodic table and the base metals, and I always remember that gold was one of the heaviest of them. So Rolex has now made one of its biggest dive watches out of a big lump of solid gold. I mean, if you want to go deep sea diving, you're going to go pretty deep with this thing on your wrist. But don't worry, because the engineers at Rolex are clearly very clever people, and realizing that you'd have to be built like Schwarzenegger to be able to put this on your wrist and still lift your arm up to be able to tell the time, they decided to reduce the overall weight by making the case back and the cover for the helium escape valve from titanium. I mean, you couldn't make this up, could you? But Rolex must have no shortage of gold, because they just keep rolling it out. And there are two new white gold Daytonas with mother-of-pearl dials. But Rolex has clearly identified that there are certain markets in the world that have both the desire and the wherewithal for blingy, expensive jewellery and watches. So to make these Daytonas as blingy as possible, they've given them both diamond set bezels too. I just think they look like fake Rolexes that you'd see on some market stall in Thailand. Moving on to the DayDate, and there are a couple of new 40mm DayDate models. And yes, of course, you've guessed it, they're in gold. And one of them also has a gem set bezel just to make it a little bit more expensive. Anything else? I can't talk about Rolex anymore. I'm even boring myself.